Hi everybody. This video is going to talk about why you feel crazy after a spiritual awakening. It's a short video and it's going to bring up a lot of emotions within you. There's going to be a lot of defenses that'll come up. I encourage you to look at those and to see what you can learn from them for your own growth. I also encourage you to use your own discernment and take what resonates with you and leave the rest. This video is going to follow a certain format where I talk about what a spiritual awakening is, common traps and things that are realized, and towards the end I'm going to talk about how to integrate all this. Alright, here we go. So what is spiritual awakening? It's when you realize that the story you told yourself is not truly who you are. Before a spiritual awakening, you're 100% identified with your story. You believe that you are male or female, a certain age, a certain height, that you are your job position, your role in your family and your friend group. You believe that to be absolutely who you are. And if anyone tries to question it, you become defensive. After spiritual awakening, you realize that those things are only relatively true. They're not absolutely who you are, but they serve a relative function. Now, for some of the common revelations or realizations and traps. After spiritual awakening, you realize that you're so much more than what you thought you were. You realize that there's something deeper within you that has always been there and is your true self. And you kind of laugh a little bit or chuckle because you realize that it's always been there, but you weren't aware of it because it was obscured by your thoughts and your emotions and your conditioning of the society and era that you were born into. And it's beautiful. It's very freeing. It can be. It can also be very scary, because now you have to try to orient yourself in the world and try to make sense of this new awareness that you have. And what you start to quickly realize is that a lot of people in society do not share your same realization. And it can make you feel, on one hand, free, but on the other hand, it can make you feel crazy. And people can even tell you that you're crazy, but you're not actually crazy. You're just aware of something that they're not aware of yet. And that's a very important word to add, is yet. Because everybody has what you realized, they just haven't realized it yet. And so what are some common ways that spiritual awakening can happen? It's oftentimes spontaneous. It can happen when you're intimate with somebody and you feel this oneness, where there feels like there's no space between you and the other person. It can happen when there's a traumatic event or a life and death situation, and you're at a loss for words on how to explain it in that moment. It can happen when you're just walking down the street, the same street that you've walked down every single day, or when you're in front of your TV playing video games, or any other mundane thing. It can just happen to you. So some of the traps that can happen is you start to learn about meditation and yoga and incense and different spiritual traditions and all these different things, and they're beneficial and they're helpful for the path, but they become a trap when you just form a new identity. You replace your previous identity of materialism with an identity of spirituality. And this isn't an attack on anybody. I've fallen in that same trap in the beginning of my journey. And it's not even a personal failure. It's the ego. The ego that you realize when you have a spiritual awakening isn't you. It's only relatively you. But it still wants to latch on to something. It'll take materialism, spirituality, anything, as long as it still feels like it's alive and still in control. So these traps can be very enticing and can sneak up on you. And that's where a common phrase that you hear of spiritual bypassing oftentimes comes into play. Spiritual bypassing can be subtle or it can be very obvious. Some of the subtle ways is having a spiritual awakening and feeling like if someone says, you're not being responsible. A spiritual bypass and defense mechanism oftentimes would be, well, we're all one, and ultimately the universe will provide for me so I don't have to take any practical action. And then oftentimes it causes a lot of stress and dysfunction and chaos in one's life. Another subtle one could be abuse or violence. Because a spiritual awakening, you realize that you're one with everything. All that a spiritual awakening does and gives you realization of is you're one with everything. Now, how your mind interprets it from your level of development and your level of maturity can range vastly differently on how it interprets that experience. That's where you hear a lot of cults that have a leader that seems to be very enlightened or has this presence, this magnetic presence, and they're causing a lot of abuse and violence and exploitation because they realize that they're one with everything, but their maturity and their development hasn't reached the same level. And that can cause an issue and often does. So a person can be enlightened, you can be in their presence and feel this sense of oneness and aliveness. And they can also be very destructive and very abusive and very intimidating, even though you feel that oneness. And that's how a lot of cults are started. That's another trap. Now, how this all ties in and how to integrate all this, it's very beneficial to look at developmental psychology and see that different people are looking at the world in vastly different ways. Because if you think about it and you just look in your daily practical life, you've never met anyone that 100% agrees with you, that 100% believes in your values the same way you do, or sees the world exactly how you do. And the reason why that is because everyone's at a different developmental stage. And another common thing is that it's easy to say that different stages in developmental psychology is a oppressive hierarchy, but it's not, depending on how it's used. It's similar to a hammer. You can use a hammer to build something meaningful, or you can use a hammer to cause harm. And the same thing with these developmental models. But learning these developmental models helps you get out of the way of cult leaders and manipulative people and sociopaths and psychopaths. Because in the ultimate sense, everyone's awareness is them looking back at you. You're the same as everybody in the deepest sense. But how that behavior and how the responsibility and maturity shows up is relative. So this whole thing of we're all one is true on the absolute sense. On the relative sense, it's very different. So one thing that helps out is learning about integral theory. And you'll be able to learn how all these different stages will interpret the same waking up experience. And it will explain and bring a lot more into your awareness on how to not only integrate it within yourself to better understand yourself, but also to better understand other people, to have more compassion and understanding on where they're coming from, and to not be as triggered and as stressed out by other people and situations and systems. And ultimately, when you better understand a system or a person or an environment, you're able to be more compassionate and more understanding and help the human collective. On my About Me page on this channel, I have a link to integral theory that you can check out. And if you're interested in any of this other stuff, you can leave a comment down below and I'll answer them. And I'll give you resources too. If you're interested in staying updated on these different videos and topics I discuss, please subscribe to my channel. It also helps the algorithm find other people that could use the value in this content. But please only do it if you feel like it's valuable. My name is Caleb, and thank you for watching. Take care.